So you've installed Rust and that big blue play button is just begging for you to click it. You're dreaming of ganking noobs, destroying bases and getting the best loot to hoard away in your mighty fortress. Well, before you dive right in, this tutorial series is going to give you a few simple tips, and to delve into some of the systems you're going to need to know to be able to master Rust, or at least I'll point you in the right direction, I hope. I want to show you a few little clips of some typical first moments in Rust. I want you to get a feel for what a realistic first experience of the game can be like, so you take the time to follow some of the tips and advice I offer in the course of this tutorial. Let's watch. Hey, watch it.
First time I was harvesting a man for bones and he woke up. Very
That's awesome. Good morning. Hey. Ow. Ow. Ugh. Some people seem to be fighting. Go the good guys. Oh, alright. Oh, that was a good shot. So was that. Hello. You appear to be naked, young man. Oi! Ow! That hurts. Stop it. That'll leave a mark.
You sound like you're on a soundboard.
Yes, your first few moments in Rust can be pretty jolly depressing if you are very new to the game and don't have your expectations calibrated. So my advice to you is to jump onto the server selector, which you can get to from the Rust icon on the top of the screen, and to jump onto the modded list and to go and look for a server with bots and to jump on it. The bot servers that are out there allow you to play with a bunch of weapons and shoot a bunch of bots, and this is pretty fun and you can get a good feel for the weapons and what they're capable of this way. In particular, I recommend starting with bows. You right click to load an arrow and aim it, and you left click with the right mouse button held down to fire it. Getting a good feel for how the arrows fly, what lead you need to do, how much the damage is done to the head versus the body, which will be a different kind of sound you'll hear. That's a pretty good thing to get to know. After that, the crossbow is worth playing with, but do note on the bot servers that the weapons do come basically with unlimited ammo and you don't have to reload them, so that is different from the real game. As well as the crossbow and bow, mess around with the pistols and the revolver, and then go wild with any of the big guns if you fancy. Don't forget on the bot servers to follow the instructions. On the one I'm on, I have to type /God, I have to hit enter to enter chat, type /God to turn on God mode, otherwise other players can kill you, which might be funny, but it also might get annoying. And they do have other neat features you can discover by wandering around and looking at the signs. On the bot servers you can also play with weapon modifications, dragging them on and off weapons to see what effect they have. Have a little look at their descriptions and have a little play around and see what you can do. It's quite an interesting little experience, and you will definitely want to get a bit of practice in on the shooting and killing side. Once you're comfortable with the bot servers, why not try out a more representative experience, but still something that's pretty gentle? Jump on the modded servers again and look for a battleground server. Type that into the filter. You'll find they usually have things like 1000 times modded, battleground, whatever in their description. These are servers where you will gather 1000 times what you normally would per resource gathering action. You have weapons and what have you as soon as you spawn, and it's basically a constant never-ending brawl across the server. It's pretty fun. You can get used to the weapons as well this way, as well as building mechanics, while you're still also facing an actual real threat situation with people trying to kill you. But the cost of losing everything isn't so high with everything so easy to gather. If you just want to practice your building, then jumping on one of the intoxicated sandbox servers or the Bob the Builder servers will give you the experience of unlimited building power. You just have to equip the tools to do building, which we'll talk about some other time, and go wild with your creations. On the sandbox servers, you can build just about anything your imagination desires. You can practice builds from popular YouTubers who have base builds for you to watch, and you can explore different kinds of construction techniques in the safety of an entirely sandbox environment. Once you're comfortable with the mechanics on the builder and the bot and the battleground servers, it's probably a good time to think about joining an actual real-life live server. Now you have quite a few options here, and it's worth talking about them before you jump right in. The first option is just to go straight to the official server list and join one of those. I would caution against that as a new player for a few reasons. First of all, the official servers don't have an admin on them usually, and that can mean that any kind of cheater will go a little wild and can be a real problem for you. You might not know it as a newbie, but they can really be issues on the official servers. Second, they're usually pretty busy with a lot of players on them, and that will be a pretty fatal experience for you if you're feeling very new and unexperienced with the game. Instead, I'd hop into one of the community servers. These are servers that are run by individuals like you and me. They usually have admin teams, especially the larger ones, and so you can be sure that if you have any real problems, you might be able to get an actual response from a person. And they usually have a few less players than the official servers, depending on when you join. When you look at the server list, you should see when the server was last wiped. Servers can wipe as often as once a week, but usually somewhere between every 2 weeks and once a month, servers will wipe. They're not always wiping on the same schedule, so you should find servers in there which are busy and fresh wiped, as well as servers that haven't wiped for a while and are perhaps less busy. For an easier experience, join one of the servers that perhaps hasn't wiped for a while and is fairly low on players. 30 or 40 players on a larger capacity server is probably a reasonable place to aim as a new player. Once you've found a good candidate with a low ping, simply hit join. Now, while the server is loading, there's a couple of things I just want to talk about. First of all, I am not claiming to be the absolute best Rust player in the world. That is quite obviously not the fact if you've watched any of my live streams. What I do hope to be able to do is to show you 1 or 2 ways of playing the game that will teach you enough about it to get you into it. From there, you can do your own thing. My approach isn't necessarily going to be the best one. I think it's quite effective, and I hope you'll learn a thing or two from watching it. When you spawn, you'll find yourself asleep on a beach, and you'll wake up. You might see other bodies around you, or you might not. It just all depends, really. Right now it's nighttime. Nighttime is a real pain in the neck because it's dark and you can't see much. The usual sorts of keys that you come to know and love in first-person shooters will apply. Spacebar jumps, shift runs, left and right strafe, control is what my crouch key's on. Yours might be on a different one. And there are binds you can learn if you look them up that will give you the ability to toggle some things like auto run and what have you. You can go Google those yourself. Now, if you hit tab, then you'll go to your inventory and you can see your character, which is fixed. You can't change anything about your character's race or gender. And you also have items you can click and drag in and out of your inventory. I just threw my torch on the ground. Well done, Tiny Pirate. If I put a rock in here, I can pull it out by pressing the 1 key, and I can mouse wheel through things as well. Left click obviously swipes, and with the rock, right click and then left click while holding it down will throw it. And actually I need to go get that rock. Come back here, rock. Throwing a rock will hurt someone, but generally it's not the best use of your time to do that. When you start, my advice is to just have a good look around and look for anyone else playing. You really don't want to be just shot up on the beach. Bear in mind, this is a PvP game. People will probably try and kill you if they see you. They don't know if you're going to be hostile to them, except they might see a weapon on your back, and they don't know if you have a pile of resources that they want in your inventory, even if you are totally unarmed and naked. So they're going to probably want to kill you and steal your stuff. It's possible that you'll be able to talk to someone. If you hold down the V key, then you can talk in local like this. Hello everyone. I don't think there's anyone out there. And a microphone will appear on the screen to let you know that you're talking. Talking is reasonably common in game, and if you don't talk at all when people talk to you, they generally get a little bit worried that you're up to something, and they're more likely to do you in. That isn't to say that talking will prevent people from doing you in at all. Now, I advise that first thing you do once you have figured out sort of your location and had a little look around is to pull out the rock with the 1 key, run up to a tree, hopefully there's one nearby, and whack on it a bit. And you'll see on the right that we're slowly collecting wood. Right now I'm up to 200 wood, and I'm just going to whack it a little bit. A couple of times is enough. And when I hit the tab key, I can see there's a quick craft option over here for things that I can immediately make. I can also get to the crafting menu by pressing the Q key, and you can see in this the full list of stuff to make. You can also, if you are in the tab menu, you can just you click at the top here and switch between things. For now, what I want you to do, if you're playing this along with me in some way, I want you to make a piece of paper. And in the bottom right, you'll see the craft time. So we're going to be slowly accumulating a piece of paper. Once that's done, we're going to make a map. And as you'll see, that'll take, on a default vanilla server, about 20 or 30 seconds. It's also worth pointing out at this point the other indicators on your screen. So in the bottom right, I've got health, 60 of 100. I've got my current thirst and my current hunger. If I come up to a river, I might be able to look down and see the drink icon. And if I tap E a few times, slowly fill myself up with delicious liquid. Very nice. Food is going to be a little trickier at the start, but we're going to have a little look around and see what we can find. Here we go. There's a mushroom here. If I walk up to it and press E, it's in my inventory. I think I saw another one over here somewhere as well. Mushroom, here we go. Mushrooms, delicious. And then I just click on it and I can hit eat in my inventory. And that will add a little bit of liquid to my diet, and it will also give me a little bit of food. So what I can do now is I've got the map in my menu bar here, and as long as it's in my menu bar somewhere, I can hold down G and have a look at the map. Now the map is an interactive one. You can draw really useful things on it, like this. You can also right click, and if you right click and then mouse wheel, you can hold down right click and drag. You can have a look around, and I kind of advise you to do this just so you get a feel for where you are in the world and what is going on around you. You're likely to die several times, so having a map so you get a feel for the map of the world that you're in is probably, I think it's a good idea. It's a good thing to start with. Once you've got your map, you kind of have a few choices. For those of you who are explorers, or you're feeling very sort of new and nervous to the game, I advise you just basically run around and have a look at the server you're on. Just kind of explore it. See what's out there. You'll probably get shot a few times. You'll probably die a few times. You'll spawn at various beaches, and you'll get a sort of sense of where's busy, where's not. And you might find a place that looks a little quieter to you. Maybe it's attractive, just looks nice, or it's a little secluded. These are places that you might want to consider starting from because of the base building opportunities that they offer. Places that get busy, if you look in your map, you'll see places called, with various names. These are called monuments. The Dome is very popular. The Lighthouse is not so much. Harbour not so much. Satellite dishes, train yard, sewer branch. These are reasonably popular. This is a small map, so I don't have airfield or the nuclear power station on here. But that's okay, those do appear on big maps. Mining outposts are pretty great as well. People do like to settle near them because of their recyclers, which we'll talk about some other time. But for now, have a little explore around. I'm thinking I'm going to head to the south because I quite like the desert. I like mining outposts, and I'm interested maybe what this little island is like, and maybe it's a bit quieter than everywhere else closer to these big monuments. So I'm just going to, if I look around here, see if I move the mouse, you can't really see it. Let me just zoom in. You can see that I can kind of look where I am pointing. So it's that way. So about that way is the island I want to go to. So my usual tactic at this point is to kind of head towards a place that I think is interesting and a place that I might want to build on and live in. Along the way, I'm going to look for useful resources to gather. And I actually think I spotted something over here, so I'm going to go have a bit of a squiz. So over here I found something quite important, and it's hemp fibers, which is when you E on them, you get seeds in your inventory, which if you press the number for the slot, you can then just left click to plant, which is kind of a nice citizen thing to do for the next brave explorer. And you'll get a little bit of cloth in your inventory. You can't usually do very much with that right at the start. I could make a bandage, which will stop me bleeding. I'm not going to do that right now. My initial goal is probably just to get a bit of wood and some food and some cloth. So I already have a couple of hundred wood. I might put that up to about 300. Bearing in mind, I don't really want to hang around the start of sort of newbie beach area for very long, because people will come along and spawn there, and they might be better players than you. Certainly are usually better players than I am, and then I'll find myself dead, and you might find yourself dead as well. So by the map, that looks to be one of the places I can head to over there. And I'm keeping an eye out for more cloth, because I want to build a sleeping bag, which becomes a spawn point as soon as I can. Some people may not want to go straight for a sleeping bag. They might want to build a bow, or they might want to build, I don't know, a spear with all the wood they gather. But for me, sleeping bag's usually not a bad investment. As you travel, you're highly likely to come across lumps of sort of trash like this. And when you move your cursor over them, you'll see that there are things here with health bars and things that you can open. So these little green boxes usually have water and food in them. This one's just water. I don't need to, but if I wanted to, I could press 5 and then click the old mouse button and drink. I'm going to save that water for now. And there's barrels here, which your rock will break open should you choose to do so. Barrels usually contain what's called components, and components are things that you can't make yourself, but are available or very important for recipes. So I just picked up a blade, and I had to kind of look for it because it's small, and it looks like there's nothing else on this pile of trash. But you will find purple boxes which contain tools often, sometimes clothes. You'll find green boxes in certain sites which contain really high-end components, and lots of other various barrels that contain springs and bits for guns and other kinds of treasure. So they're usually worth keeping an eye out, and it can be quite a viable strategy to go straight for harvesting components, because you can recycle them into metal, which is quite important later on. Also in the world are nodes like this, which are rock nodes. So here is just a default one. There's a shiny black one which contains more metal, and there's kind of a yellowy one which contains sulfur. And I think that's it. I think there's 3 types. It's not too important. All that matters is you whack them, and as you can see, I'm picking up stones and metal ore. Now, as you notice, I'm kind of moving around while I whack this, and there's a very good reason for this. You don't really want to sit still so someone can put an arrow in the back of your head, and you don't really want to just be an easy target for anyone who's passing by, because the sound of me whacking on this rock probably goes reasonably far into the world. People will hear it, and they'll come along hoping to pop a juicy farmer for their delicious loot rewards. If I'm just sitting here, I can hold down the Alt key, move my mouse, and look around, just to kind of keep an eye on my environment. If you are a track IR user, then really you should go back to your flying sims. Just kidding. But if you're a track IR user, you can actually use track IR with Rust. Not set it up myself, but it is possible. Now, as you wail on this node, it will shrink, and you'll have to keep a close eye on it, and eventually it'll disappear. Nodes do appear fairly randomly around the world, more often on mountains, more often on deserty areas. And if you look at the map, you can see those with the mountains being, I don't know, the high rocky-ish spots. The spots that look like mountains up here, for example, with snow, and desert areas down here are yellow, and along cliff edges like the one I'm pointing to now, often are good spots for nodes. So if I look at my inventory now, I have metal ore. This isn't processed. I've got sulfur ore, which is what I want for gunpowder. I've got high quality metal, which is what you basically want to melt down to make into high quality metal bars so that I can make weapons. And I've got stone, which is really a fundamental piece of equipment for all kinds of building. As you travel, just sort of keep a little eye on the environment. I'm currently crossing this watery spot. It is possible to log out in the water and not die. So for example, right now I'm in a shallow spot, and I can see that just based on the terrain that's around here. It's sort of a lighter bluey yellow there. If I was to go off into a deep area, I could swim down, sort of make sure I'm reasonably deep so I can't be seen from the shore. And it'll say you're drowning. You might even get complaints about cold. But if you just logged out at that point, your body will sink to the bottom of the sea, and you will probably be safe from most predators. You want to get a bit out from the shore so that a bear or a wolf doesn't kill you, and you want to be away from players, obviously. You don't want them coming across you and finding your body. Because when you log out in Rust, your body just drops wherever it is, and it may not be a safe location for you. Now, as I'm looking around here, I see there are quite a few nodes just on the ground here. These are quite common in the desert. and they're quite a good way to pick up lots of free stuff. So I'm just mousing over them and pressing E. I can see that people have been building around here, so I should be a little bit careful, but the server is reasonably quiet, so I can probably get away with taking a few more risks than I might otherwise on a busy server. Let's gather up all of this stuff. Now I've seen, little base here. I've seen a deer and a horse charging around. I'm not really ready to take them on yet because I don't have a bow or a spear or anything. But if I wanted to, those could definitely be enjoyable pursuits. Oh, here's a little piggy too. Might be able to put a rock in him. Come here, pig. No. No. They will happily run through rocks, and you're pretty much stuffed if that's the case. You can't get them to come out again. Rocks are also, fortunately for you, quite helpful. If you see a bear or a wolf, you can hide on a rock, and if it's big enough, they won't be able to get to you. Bears and wolves are extremely fatal, so you do want to run away from them. Over here I can see more types of loot drops, and a beautiful, a purple crate. How handy. Awesome. So what's it going to give me? Oh, a shirt. That's pretty useless. It's okay for keeping you a little bit warmer, but not much else. Some barrels here might have some stuff I can recycle, which would be a really great thing. Metal blades. So I'm going to harvest all of these barrels and then carry on my merry way. Metal fragments. Some of the things you pick up from these can be extremely small and hard to spot. Springs and metal fragments among them. Very hard to see them at night. I just sort of look around, smashing the E key as much as I possibly can. Sewing kit. Over here's a feature that's quite fun to explore, and that's a mine. Oh look, delicious food. I need some of that. I'm going to eat that, and I'm going to keep these cans to process. Cool. So here is a miner's hat with some fuel, and I can just drag this into my inventory, and right-clicking will take stuff out as well. So if you have several things in a box like this, you can just right-click them all, and they'll all be plucked out. Now once they're out, right-clicking will wear them. And if you look at my character, I've now got a miner's hat on. Over here, high-quality metal processed. That's very nice to have. And one of these boxes, these are great. They usually contain useful things. A survey charge isn't particularly useful for me right now, but it can be good. Now, I'm not going to explore these caves right now, except to say you can find nodes down here and a few parkour jumps. You won't necessarily get stuck if you go into them, and they can be useful places to build bases, but sort of not going to bother introducing that now as a topic. Now, I am currently stuck on top of a rock with a bear underneath me. I heard his little soft padding feet hurtling towards me, and he's down there somewhere. So while I wait for him to leave, it's probably a good time to look at the stuff I've collected. So in bashing all these barrels, I've collected some crude oil. Don't worry too much about that now. I've collected some low grade. This is going to be quite important. I have these rad pills, which I talked about, well, I picked up earlier, didn't really talk about them. They're going to be very useful if I ever get radiation poisoning, because radiation poisoning becomes like a damage over time, and you can chuck them down just to kind of get rid of all your current rads. I wouldn't advise you go places where you hear the Geiger counter tick and radiation start to accumulate, so for now I'm going to throw them away. This propane tank and this stuff here can be quite useful, but the blades and the propane tank, but for now they're not terribly useful. Spring, really useful, one to keep that. I'm going to make weapons with that eventually, maybe, for all the good it'll do me. Now's the time to probably think about whether or not I want to live here. It's a little bit built up for a small server, for my liking, but on the other hand, I'm here now, and it'll do, I think, and the server looks pretty quiet. So I might build something. I might even build something down on the shore, because it's going to be a little bit secluded there. People probably won't go looking over the edge of that cliff. So what I want to do is I'm going to make a sleeping bag so that I can come back and spawn in this location, or at least nearby. I'm going to drop it down soon. So you should have an inventory which when you hit quick craft, you should see a sleeping bag. It won't look like my beautifully skinned one, or you can just come into the craft menu. Type sleep, and there's a sleeping bag, and you can see it costs 30 cloth and 100 wood, and it will use up those resources now. If you cancel the build, which if I go back to the crafting menu I can do by clicking, if I cancel it then the resources will be returned to me. Likewise, if I'm interrupted by dying or something, they will appear on my body with the items not made. But as it stands, I've got 13 seconds to wait. And I think the bear has wandered off. So I might do a little bit of recycling. So I'm going to head over here, and these buildings, these mining outposts are pretty fun because they have recyclers in them. They're usually, or can be, pretty hotly contested, and recyclers turn stuff into base components for you, or base resources, and that can be good. Another spring, very nice. They also have these boxes, there's usually 2 of them. If they're not there, someone has grabbed them. Gears, very important. So I can come over here to this recycler, and I'm going to chuck this junk in them. I might chuck that as well because I don't need those right now. They are helpful later. I don't need a survey charge. Let's see if it recycles. And we're just going to wait. It makes a bit of noise, so you might want to consider just hiding or coming here armed. Over time, your resources will slowly be burned up, and things will get, or your components, or whatever you put in here to recycle, will slowly get burned up, and out will pop goods for you to pick up. Oh, that's pretty nice. Gunpowder and cloth and metal. So now I've got quite a bit of metal, which is very pleasing to me, because it's very important for our jobs we want to do soon, which is to make a door with a lock on it. So I'm going to run over here, and I'm just going to have a look. Do I want to consider building over here? I've got my sleeping bag. If it was a really busy server, I might put a sleeping bag down far sooner than now, but since I feel fairly safe, I think I can be a little bit more aggressive, except for the bear. No, run away, run away, run away, jump. Oh gosh. Bear, are you there? He's under the rock. Now I just want to raise a quick point about jumping in this game. When you jump and go forward, you don't sort of instantly gain a lot of height and move. You often need to stand back a little bit from what you're jumping on, or you will find that you cannot actually reach the heights you would like. You can also jump and crouch, and that will get you in windows and on ledges, and you can run and jump as well, which gives you a little bit more distance. Are you leaving me alone? Damn you, bear. I think he is. Okay, so I have a little bit of cloth left, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a small stash, which is where I can store something, and we're going to leave that to make right now. I'm going to run this way, get away from that blimmin' bear. This little beach I think will be quite a good option for my starter base. It's not going to be perfect, but I can see there's a few nodes here for rock. There's some trees around for wood, and those are all going to be excellent and very useful for me fairly soon. And there's plenty of animals, that's also nice. So what I'm going to do is put my bag down. So I'm going to select it with the number. If it's not already in your inventory, put it there and then push the number, and you can see I can place it places. If I can't place it down, it's probably in a terrible location, like near a monument. You can't build near monuments, can't place anything, so that would be problematic for you. I'm going to try and find a spot to hide it. Like, what I want to do ideally is hide it in a bush or somewhere where it won't easily be seen, but I'm a bit short on bushes around here. Maybe we'll just go for right there. If I look at it and hold down the E button, and as long as I hold it down, I can get to do different things. Like, I can give it to a friend, which will allow me to just choose someone and give it to them, if I want to have a friend join me. I'll explain that another day. If you do have friends who are going to bag you in, what's called bagging you in, then you probably don't need to watch this tutorial. They're probably going to tell you everything what to do anyway. But so for now, we're just going to presume you're playing mostly by yourself, which is the hardest and most elite way to play. So there's my bag. It's not perfectly camouflaged, but it'll do. And I've got a small stash, and I'm going to put it somewhere memorable nearby. And actually what I thought was quite memorable, because I have a terrible memory for these sorts of things, is this little inlet over here. Quite noticeable. And then I'm going to put somewhere, because this thing will disappear when we're done with it. I'm going to put this somewhere like in this little corner here. So there's a little inlet, left side of it, little corner right there. And when I open, so I put it down and I can press E or hold down. So I can either tell it to hide if I hold down or open. By default, just tapping E it does that to it, opens it. I'm going to put my most useful stuff away. I'm thinking it's probably this lot. I'm going to take the stone back. The fat is this stuff. That's a good pile of stuff to get rid of. Great, and now I can press E and hide. I'll come back to getting it up again. See? Cannot be found. Hackers can find these. If you forget to hide them, people will find them. Sometimes people are smart enough to just walk around and figure out where they are, like in front of your door, that stuff. But for now, we're just going to presume that you've been smart enough to hide it. In the course of all of my current travels, I've gathered enough wood and stone from picking things up and whacking trees to be able to make some tools, and you can see them down here. So the first tool that I can make is a stone hatchet, and I've still got enough left over to make a stone pickaxe, which is pretty brilliant. So I'm going to put those into use very soon. I'm going to put away, where is it? I have to come back here and look at the spot for it to come back. I'm going to put away those things. Oh, actually I'll keep that. Might put away the spring. Those are really good, valuable components. All this other stuff is nice to have, but not the end of the world. In fact, with a little bit of leftover cloth, I'm going to make a bandage. And the rest of this stuff, I don't know, it can stay there for now. Okay, I'm getting my stone pickaxe ready, or stone axe, which means I can do some harvesting soon. Oh, it's worth pointing out that the hat on my head I can turn on with F. See? F. So now I've got a bright light, so if I did want to go into the caves I could. Going into the caves will mean that I end up using the fuel that's in it. And I can take a look at this and I can actually take the fuel out, which is I think what I'm going to do, because I really want to use this fuel for another job, which we're going to do later. 37 fuel, that's a great start. Don't forget to hide it. So now I've got some tools and nobody has killed me yet, which I consider quite a good thing. And I haven't seen anyone around this area, which is also a good thing. I consider this is basically prime time right now for the server, so maybe this part's a little quieter. More loot to pick up from these crates. Always enjoy grabbing them because they're easy to use. This stuff in particular, this sheet metal, is a really great item to recycle. You can make armor out of it later on, but if you're new, chuck it in the recycler, get a ton of resources. So what I'm going to do now is crouch up to these trees here, and I'm just going to whack on them and start gathering some wood. Oh, my bandage is crafted, so I'm actually going to select it and use it just to give myself a little bit more health. And you need to, I'm going to make a couple more maybe. And you need to make sure that you wait for the animation to finish, or you will not be able to enjoy the health benefits that come with the bandage. If you're bleeding a lot, then the bandage will stop the bleeding, which is a great way to kill off a damage over time. So it's always usually a good idea to have 1 or 2 bandages in your inventory ready to go, once you've got a sleeping bag down somewhere. And I'm going to gather up a couple of thousand, well, maybe 1,000 wood, and then I'm going to go gather some stone. And then I'm basically kind of almost ready to do a little bit of base building. Now is probably a good time to finish this tutorial. It's getting quite long. If you'd like to see part 2 where I get into some base building and all that kind of stuff, please let me know in the comments below. Until next time, I've been Tiny Pirate. Thanks for watching. Good night.